You're listening to the Clutter Fairy Weekly, a weekly webcast and podcast brought to you by the Clutter Fairy in Houston, Texas. If you'd like to participate in one of our live webcasts, please visit cfhou.com/weekly. You'll find a calendar of upcoming webcasts, as well as instructions for joining the Zoom meeting via the app or by phone. We'd love to see you. That URL again is cfhou.com/weekly. Now here's the weekly episode. Enjoy.
Hi, Clutter Fairy fans. This is the Clutter Fairy Weekly for June 9th, 2026. I'm your co-host, Ed Gumnick, and I'm speaking with Gayle Goddard, certified professional organizer and owner of the Clutter Fairy in Houston, Texas.
Hello, everybody. The Clutter Fairy Weekly is the webcast and podcast that digs deep into the clutter that piles up between you and the life that you want to be living. We explore the habits and behaviors that lead to clutter, and we suggest strategies to slow the accumulation, reduce the collection, and comfortably manage the stuff we decide to keep.
If you're new to our Zoom meeting, we want to let you know that you can share your comments via the chat feature, and I'll try to make sure Gayle addresses them before we move on to another topic. Sorry, I lost my place for a second there. You can also use the raised hand feature if you'd like to ask a question or make a comment yourself via audio or video. And we are streaming the webcast live on Facebook, so you can also share your comments and questions there, and I'll relay them to Gayle. We're going to start by talking about last week's weekly tittle, which was called Keeping Pace. The assignment was to examine an area of your life or your home in which accumulation outpaces your ability to declutter. Let's hear from our participants in Zoom and on Facebook who tried our thought experiment tittle this week. Please let us know in the comments. YouTube viewer Bobby D65 shared a comment on the topic of shopping, which was one of the activities we discussed last week that tends to cause incoming stuff to outpace departing clutter. Bobby writes, "A while ago, I learned that stores are another type of museum. I don't visit a museum with the intention of buying art. I just go to see the beautiful things. Same thing with stores. I go to see what is beautiful or new or interesting. Then it's easy to leave those things there. If necessary, I can go visit again. No need to own those things. And there's too much pressure in my house to decide where will I put it. Not buying is a gift I am able to give myself."
I love this response so much. What a great reframing of shopping. You don't go to the store, you don't go to the museum to buy the art on the wall, you just go to look at it. And you can think of a store and shopping in exactly the same way. That is a perfect reframe metaphor. It's not that you don't go to the store and come home with everything in the store. You don't have to go buy stuff. You can just go look at it. It's pretty, and there it is. And then you can leave it there just like you would leave the art behind at a museum. Love that so much. And she's prioritizing. There's too much pressure in my house to decide where I'll put it. And not buying is a gift I'm able to give to myself. And it absolutely is. The older you get and the more stuff's in your house, bringing more stuff into the house is not the, bonus and benefit that you think it is. You're just making the problem bigger. And so choosing to not buy something and think of that as being, as gifting yourself something. What a great, complete 180 way to think about shopping and how it affects you and how it impacts your house. And I love that so much. I can't even tell you. I think that is that was a great aha moment, and she provided a perfect reframe for how to go to a store and not come home with everything in it or any of it. To just go look at it and say, yep, that's pretty, and then walk away. Love it.
And one of the audience inputs we talked about last week was the comment from Tiffany about concern that her accumulation would always outpace decluttering efforts unless a true mental shift was achieved. And Bobby's idea here of learning to think of stores as museums where she can visit
where pretty stuff is,
cool, beautiful stuff is a really good mental shift.
100%. I really love that.
And Yvonne, who was the other commenter who inspired that discussion last week, she talked about how do we replace the dopamine rush of buying the new stuff. And I think if you turn it in, maybe turn your window shopping trip into enough of a special event for yourself, it will provide that dopamine rush, even if you don't go home with a car trunk full of stuff.
Right? Because it's still pretty to look at. It's still, beautiful and interesting and catches your attention. And yeah, I just can't even, I can't tell you how perfectly reframed that is to think of a store as another type of museum with beautiful things in it that is intended for show and not for transportation to you.
Right.
It's not coming home with you. It's just there for you to look at it. It's just an exhibit. And I think that's a great way to think about it. Thank you so much for writing that. It's really quite brilliant.
Um, I have another comment I want to share, but let's look at comments live first.
Okay.
Jacqueline says, now that it's summer, much of my indoor decluttering energy is being diverted towards working in the yard and garden.
Mm,
I can get hyper focused on things sometimes, including decluttering. So a little break to work elsewhere is not a bad thing.
right. And
I'm
I'm sure your yard needs it.
I'm still working on jigsaw puzzles. I just finished a 2,000 piece puzzle, which I very much enjoyed.
Yay. Good job.
Connie writes, I went into X room. That's what they call their, I think it was their
Oh, the
daughter's
room
former
of shame.
bedroom, guest guest room, junk room, etc. I went into X
Multifunction.
room, rearranged a few things, found some things to discard, then sighed and closed the door.
Hey, that was step one, and you took some things out, and I think that that's great. Like if you, that was just one of many forays you're going to make into the room, and that was just the first one. And if that's as much time as you can spend in it, and you're going to do that in 10-minute increments, you're still going to get all the way around the room. So don't give yourself a hard time about it. You did something, something's better than nothing. And
Definitely.
you keep doing some things, and eventually you will feel much more enthusiastic about that space. So go team go.
And yeah, no, don't sigh. Focus on found some things to discard.
Yeah, like things went away. That's awesome.
Brenda says, lost my phone this week, was able to find the backup in the first box I tried. Yes, the box on the bottom in the living room, but went straight to it without any labels leading the way. I am blessed just when I needed backup phone. That was lucky.
Yay. That's awesome. That's got to feel good.
Linda says, like a museum, a library is a great space to go look at stuff, with the added bonus that you can borrow a great book, read it, and return it.
And take it back to the museum. Exactly. I love it. We can stretch that metaphor all over the place. I like it.
Let's see. Naomi says, not myself, but a friend who has a voluminous packaging of medical supplies continuously flooding in. There's so much that I really want to recycle rather than throw it out. Things like throwaway styrofoam coolers and ice packs and plastic containers, etc.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of medication that gets delivered with cold packs to keep it like it's refrigerated material. And so they keep it cold and send you this big styrofoam box. And then you have to deal with the styrofoam. I think it's important to see, like in Houston, we actually have a dedicated crusher for styrofoam in the recycle plant. And so they will take recycling for drop off. And so people can make the effort to collect all that packaging and drive away and have it be processed properly. But there's some level where styrofoam is also interesting to artists, by the way. There are some artists that would use it to create sculpture work, and
Right.
because it's a lightweight material and it's easy to cover and paint and glue and whatever. And so you might offer styrofoam to an artist, find somebody that's using styrofoam as a base for their artwork and offer them some that way as well. But and styrofoam is a problem, and that packaging is a problem.
Yeah.
So yeah, as much as you can recycle, they've started making the ice packs with material that can be put down the drain instead of it's not toxic chemicals.
Right.
And actually, Amazon has started shipping things with frozen water bottles in there.
Oh, that's interesting.
So they've shifted from these packs to they freeze some cheap plastic water bottle and it freezes into an ice block. And they use that as insulation. Then it comes out and it thaws, and you have a bottle of water to drink instead
Wow.
of something to throw away, which I thought was freaking brilliant. And I bet the bottled water is cheaper than the silly, you know, chemical ice
Throwaway
packs that are
filler.
designed that
Yeah.
go with them, right? And
Yeah.
so maybe people will take on that model, and it'll shift away from the other things.
M says, I have gone clothes shopping just to get ideas how to use the pieces I already have without buying anything. So that's another mental shift. Use the trip to the store as your fashion show, as your, you know,
Styling guide
chance to see what the new trends are and
and
how
how
to
they're
make
putting
what
things
you already
together.
have work.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I wouldn't have thought of it as that, but sure. I mean, there's all those displays and all those pieces that they put together to show you if you buy these pieces, it makes an outfit. And what a great way to go and, get some fresh ideas about what to do with what you already have. Great
Um,
idea.
Here's another great suggestion from May, for if your shopping still outpaces your discarding of stuff. May says, I am pulling out clothes I never wear and wearing them for the day. At the end of the day, I decide if I like the outfit. If not, I launder it and it goes straight into my donate bag, which is next to the washer and dryer.
Oh, that's smart. I mean, it creates a longer tail of decision making, but it also must feel like you've made a considered, thoughtful decision by doing it that way. And so it's slower, but you feel like you've made the right decision at the end of the day. So that's good.
Well, and it's sort of like a very short farewell tour.
Right?
We talked about the farewell tour, or the
Hmm.
box where you put stuff to give it some time to marinate before you're 100% convinced it can go.
Comfortable. Yeah.
And if it's clothing that you keep going to the closet and not wearing, but also not discarding, then forcing yourself to put it on
And
and wear
choose
it
it for
all
the day.
day
Hmm.
might remind you, oh yeah, it's because this
It's
fits
itchy.
funny right here, or
Right.
I don't like the way I get the little fold on the shoulder, whatever. You might realize why, you may have subconscious reasons that you never pulled it out to wear, things you don't
Yeah.
consciously think of, but when you see that piece, you just go, not today.
I have things in there I like better. And
Yeah,
that's the big, that's the big final choice.
right.
Am I going to wear it? Is it going to be in rotation? Does it appeal enough for me to pick it? And if it doesn't, then, hasta luego.
Um, So I wanted to share another comment we got this week that dealt with the topic of clearing problematic large spaces, which is one of our
Yeah, that we talked about a couple weeks ago.
topic. That was no, this was last week as well.
Oh, okay.
Frequent commenter Ms. Leanite shared a comment that's especially worth discussing, I think. Ms. Leanite writes, clearing that workspace slash staging area before tackling a crowded mess is so important. Otherwise, you're just churning things without making any progress. It's one of the reasons to tackle a job alone if you can only find uncongenial or unserious helpers. People want to go sightseeing in your stuff. They start disemboweling bags and boxes right away as they're eager to see what you've got in there. Then they keep up a monotonous, what do you want to do with this? No matter how many times you tell them it doesn't have a place, which is why it's still in that box. When you try to concentrate on clearing one area of the floor and one decent sized table first, so you can sort the stuff as you unbox it, and ask them to help you with this, they argue with you about what you should do instead. Better to work alone with some music, even if you can only manage an hour or two in each session.
And that is certainly nobody wants helpers that make it more stressful and difficult for you. 100%. If they're not willing to participate in a way that feels like you haven't surrendered agency and you aren't being challenged constantly the whole time, then I think you're right. It's easier to put on the music and do it 1 hour at a time yourself. And having a clear workspace, it gives you the place to sort and work and then walk away when your hour or 2 hours is up and come back to it later. And so I agree with you that you want that clear space first, and you do not want unserious helpers. Somebody just wants to dig and throw around and then start going, what in the world are you doing with this? Like, why? What is the point of this? That's not the discussions you need to be having right then. So good for you. You figured out what works. You're doing your best to make this situation palatable and manageable for you, and you're going to get it done. And of course, if you had helpers, it might go faster, but it doesn't need to go faster if going faster is more stressful and difficult for you. So write the script the way it works for you. And it sounds like you did, and I'm glad you figured it out.
Well, I like this comment too because we were talking about advantages of the big spaces that have a lot of stuff going on, like particularly out of sight storage, basements and
Yeah,
attics,
basement, attic, yeah.
maybe big closets, garages, um, and one of the problems that I think this comment highlights is that this is a huge collection of deferred decisions.
Yes, yes, yes.
And that means people with, you really can only have people working on it who are empowered to make the decisions.
Mm-hmm.
So that's your trusted partner or child or other family member. If you're willing to delegate that decision-making role,
Yeah. And if
otherwise
you're not,
it's you. It's they're going to be your decisions and you have to bear the brunt of it,
yeah,
right?
exactly. Yeah, and it's the fact that it's in the overflow room basically is because by definition it didn't have anywhere else to go yet. And
Right.
so part of clearing that large space is determining this is supposed to go in this area, and I'm going to have to make space for it in this area in order to put it there. Or this has been in here because I didn't want to think about it in the moment, but it really is now trash, recycle, donation, and you can let it go. But there's always going to be things in those large spaces that they ended up there because you couldn't put them where you want them to be. And you have to stop and figure out, okay, that's supposed to be in that space that's overly full. And in order for me to keep this, I got to go get rid of some other stuff in the other place and make room for it. And so now I have to go make decisions in the other place in order to be able to put this thing up. And so it is a trigger some multi-tier decision making in order to clear that space. And that's kind of what she's describing here too.
Okay, I want to
Yay.
share one more comment before we go on. And this is on the topic of shopping and dopamine. Teresa says, replace the dopamine with being proud of yourself.
There you go. That's a good response too. Thank you.
Okay,
Why not?
let's go into our main topic.
Okay.
Decluttering is more than just emptying closets and throwing things away. Mindfully clearing clutter and organizing our possessions can be a valuable form of self-care that creates space for peace and growth in our lives. Today, we're going to explore how mindful decluttering and organizing can help us release negative feelings and brighten our emotional landscape.
So we're going to thread a needle here today, trying to talk about being more mindful as we declutter and organize our spaces. I think you all understand when we talk in general about decluttering and organizing your space. I describe sorting your belongings, making keep toss decisions, and putting things back with a system. That's a process that is actionable and pretty clear to most people. What we're going to add today is an element of approaching this decluttering process with mindfulness about the way the house is set back up after all the decluttering is done. We want to discuss adding an extra step to setting back up so that the house contributes to your self-care and to your sense of peace in your home. So here we go. Our homes are where we spend our most emotional moments. It's where we go to feel safe and secure. It's where we end up after a long day outside, where we've been working and being appropriate with other people and being fully dressed for public presentation. We go out into the world with our emotional armor on, our clothing armor on, and our social interactions armor on. And when we come home after being out for the day wearing all of that armor, home is where all that comes off. We drop the public face, we relax our emotional control, and we take off those day clothes and put on house clothes. We shed all kinds of physical and emotional armor once we arrive back home. When we come home at night and shed all that extra social and emotional weight, we want to relax and chill out and connect intimately with members of our inner circles, focus on what's interesting to us, rest and recuperate. We've been out there doing hard things physically and emotionally and socially, and we want to recover from that hard work of being out there all day. Sure, maybe there's kids at home and someone has to get dinner on the table and the laundry needs doing, but still the house feels like our specific space that supports us and our family to be together and recover from a hard day. What I'm saying here is that you want your house to support you in that recovery. We already agree that if your house is cluttered and disorganized and overstuffed, the house physically cannot support you in being relaxed and at peace. I know most of you listening are already living some version of that. The house is already signaling irritation and frustration to you when you go outside. When you go inside. The basic decluttering and organizing project will go a long way to reducing that frustration, if only by making things more accessible and less dense in your spaces. But the house could also be positively supporting your peace and happiness if it's set up intentionally that way. You could upgrade your goal for the house from clear out the clutter and get organized to set up the house as part of my self-care to support peace of mind, relaxation, and recovery. So let's discuss some thoughts on how we can leave space for ourselves, in air quotes, in the decluttering and organizing process. Remember this baseline goal. You want your home to support and nurture the life that you want to be living. We say that at the top of the show every time. You want to feel safe, relaxed, and rejuvenated by being in your space, whatever that looks like for you. So prioritize yourself in the organizing process. Recognize the limits of your mental bandwidth and your physical energy. I may have mentioned this story recently, but I had a client who scheduled 2 separate days for their move. It wasn't that they had so much to move that they needed 2 days, but rather mentally and physically, they couldn't handle the whole move in one day. They were both in their 80s, and the idea of the long day needed to move all their home contents on one day was just too much for them. Of course, the movers could have moved it all in one day, but my clients took care of their own well-being and booked the move in 2 halves. That meant each day was significantly shorter, less rushed, and less strain on both of them. They prioritized themselves in that moment. Of course, not all house projects are as momentous as moving, but the same principle applies to an organizing project.
I wanted to comment on that point too. When you're doing the move yourself, it's tempting for a variety of reasons to do it as quickly as possible.
Uh,
Like if you gotta rent a truck, well, you'd rather rent a truck once than twice because it'll
or
cost
one day
half
instead
as
of 2 day,
yeah,
yeah.
because it'll cost half as much. But the trade-off is you get to the end of that one
Are
day
beat
and
to hell.
you're just about dead. You're
Yeah.
immobilized for the next 3 days,
Uh-huh.
and you're more likely to break things, uh, load things do things in the wrong order. The wrong, I'm putting wrong in quotation marks,
Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah,
you know what
yeah.
I mean.
Yeah.
You get something over there and you realize you can't set it up because you didn't bring the tools or the other part that needs to go with it.
Mm-hmm. Or
Um,
get yourself hurt in the process because
right.
you're overstretched, overstrained. 100%.
Yeah.
I had a client, I actually got called by in an assisted living apartment. I got called by a social worker to come and look at a space because the apartment was too crowded for their mobility, and they wanted me to clear some spaces out and create some pathways for them to move around. And it turned out that the wife, uh, they were older couple, and the wife had injured her back without realizing it in the moving process because they put so much effort into boxing and preparing for the move, and she just kept pushing, 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 and they got to the other house and her back was bothered and she thought it was just, oh, I just worked too hard, and it kept going and going and going and getting worse and worse and worse, and they finally took her to the doctor and she had cracked a vertebrae
Oh my
as
goodness.
part of the process because she just overstrained herself and did too much and tried to save money and act like she had the stamina of a 30-year-old and she worked too hard and then she hurt herself. And so um, you can make that be easier on yourself 100% and not be injured as a result. Okay. You want to focus on making your space look and feel comfortable to you, not based on what others tell you is aesthetically pleasing or what's in fashion currently, but what appeals to you. What do you like seeing? What reflects who you are? Choose a decorating style that brings you the most peace. And that decorating part of the process is something you can add in as an organizing project. Decorate it in a way that makes you feel peaceful. Consider all the ways the house would make you more comfortable, be it physically or emotionally. Maybe it's a comfy couch. Maybe it's seeing decor and artwork that you find really appealing. Think about what makes you feel relaxed when you're at home. What calms you when you look at it? What feels comfortable to sit on? What makes it easy to function without struggle? You may be used to a level of struggle in order to function in the house because of its current condition, but you can organize the house in a way to remove struggle because that is so much more relaxing way to live in the space. Make your personal values the measure of what you keep, not society's or anyone else's expectations. We're really quick to apply society's standards about how things should be, but I think that's a disservice to your own happiness. In your own home, those choices should be based on your personal values only.
An example there is just because maybe you or your husband have friends who come over expecting to be able to watch the game in the living room
Uh-huh.
does not mean you have to have a TV in your living room. You know,
Right?
um, that's something I always notice because we haven't had a TV in the living room in a while.
Forever. Yeah.
Yeah, we did for a while at the last place because it was honestly the only place where there was a large enough section of wall.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, but we'd always rather not have a TV in the living room if we can
Get
manage
away
it.
with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and the alternative is I know that there's people that have TVs in their bedrooms, and I personally would never put a TV in the bedroom because I do not want to be I want to go into the bed and lay down and sleep. I do not want to be in the bed and be looking at something on the wall, keeping me awake. And I've
Hmm.
known people, everybody feels differently about this, and there, it isn't a right or wrong way. I'm just making the point that
Yeah.
some people have the TV in the bedroom because they want the white noise or whatever it is to fall asleep, and they don't find that disturbing. I find it very disturbing. And so in my bedroom, there is no TV. And that's the point. Like, you need to pick what you think is relaxing, not what you think anybody expects to be there or what you think is in fashion currently. Set it up so that it makes you feel relaxed. And so now you can take action around this. Set very clear intentions about each area of your home. What will you do here? How do you want to feel? Does this space help me relax, recuperate, and recharge, or does it not? Then let those intentions guide your choices about what to keep instead of your feelings about a particular object. What needs to stay in this room so I can feel good in this space instead of sad and overwhelmed? Ask yourself those questions and aim for what will make you feel happy here. There's a distinction between, do I like this object? If I do, I should keep it. And does this object in this room feel peaceful to me? So we're asking you to think about it in terms of the reflection that the object makes towards your peace of mind and your sense of relaxation and recuperation. Declutter in short sessions with as many breaks as you need to recharge and reset and renew your enthusiasm. Clutter's been there. It's okay for it to take some time to leave. Deciding what a space should have in it to support your well-being takes more thought than a standard organizing reset. So plan sessions with time so that you can contemplate what the supportive version of the room looks like. If you have to give yourself a few minutes to go, I know this is how it's been, but how can I imagine that this would feel exactly perfect to me? This would feel so relaxing and rejuvenating. What would I need to add or subtract? How do I need to rearrange? What is missing or what is getting in the way of me feeling relaxed here? And it's a way for you to filter the contents differently. Be honest with yourself as you can about aspirational clutter. We've talked about aspirational clutter before. Ask yourself, does this item or collection serve who I am right now? Or is it who I merely hope to be in the future? The hope to be clutter can be released for now. If you arrive at the place you hope to be someday, then you can get stuff to support that current version of yourself in the future. If it's not who you are right now and it's not imminently going to be who you are, then it's aspirational clutter and you don't need to keep it there. Let someone else use that stuff right now and you can buy fresh in the future when that version of you actually arrives. But I think we all have the thought, I'm going to be fill in the blank person. I'm going to become somebody who exercises, or I'm going to take on this hobby, or I'm going to start this, new career. And you have acquired things that in theory you're going to use someday. But I think storing against a reality that hasn't happened yet is crowding out the space that you need to be who you are currently and to support who you are currently. And so it's another way that aspirational clutter takes up valuable space and gets in the way for who you are now and how you can be relaxed and rejuvenated in your own home now. And so
Well,
go ahead.
well, and I would argue, yeah, besides just crowding out the stuff that's current and relevant, the stuff that's
Mm,
supporting you right now,
now, yeah.
your present hobby, your present
Job.
interest, your present job, aspirational clutter's crowding is crowding that stuff because you're not using it right now. You're saving
Yeah.
it for an imagined future. Um, but it's also, it also for many people is making you feel bad
Mm-hmm.
to be reminded, well,
Because you
as
haven't
I'm
arrived
as
there.
you're trying to put away the supplies for a project you are working on, you got to shove stuff out of the way for that project you still haven't gotten to for years
Mm-hmm.
because it's merely aspirational.
Right.
And I have this staring me in the face right now, honestly, because
Oh, what
over
is
over
it?
there on my art supply rack, there's a little box that has a piece of broken pottery in it. I have
Oh.
this, so one of my aspirations is to learn to do kintsugi, the Japanese art
Oh, the
of,
gold, fix the
yeah,
crack with a
repair,
gold,
right.
like binder of some kind.
Yeah, gold powder in the glue, or I've watched some videos. Okay, I don't want to go too far down this rabbit hole, but I've watched a few videos and have mostly talked myself out of doing it because to do it right is this elaborate, complicated process,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and there are shortcuts, but I'm not convinced it would be as fabulous in reality as it is in my head. So,
Well, and it is a beautiful way to honor the breakage and still repair the pot.
right,
I mean, it's a very Japanese art of making something beautiful and, having it be turned into like the broken piece honored and still reestablish the integrity of the piece, and
right,
it really makes beautiful art. But
and celebrate and I like the idea of celebrating the imperfection. That's
yes, yes,
really
yes, yes,
cool.
yes, yes. But like you
Um,
said, it's an elaborate recovery method for the average household person,
right, right.
right?
But
Yeah.
it's an example. There
Mm-hmm.
there there are other things that could be where that box, in the space that box is taking up.
Right?
And like the real point I was trying to make is every time I go over there and have to shuffle things around,
Move that box away.
it digs at me a little bit and says,
Mm.
don't you think maybe you should do something about this? So I mean, I think that's a great that getting rid of those little negative digs is a good
Is a great way to
motivation
relax in your house,
and
right?
to lose the aspirational clutter.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But because I think that, if aspirational clutter, like people use vision boards and objects of I want to be able to get into these shorts, and they use them as inspiration, right? There's
Right.
some manner of if you have those things, it's inspiring you towards that goal. But if what really happens is that it sits over there and mocks you and makes you feel bad for not getting there, then it's not accomplishing what you would hope. It's not preparing you against the possibility. It's making your everyday reaction to it to be one of shame, distress, upset, embarrassment, like you're experiencing all these negative emotions around it, then it's not really doing its job. It's not inspiring you to aim for that goal. It's making you feel bad about not getting there. And so if that's true, I think then the physical objects as inspiration towards a goal is not really working for you. And you need to come up with another way to be goal oriented and inspired by that potential future. And in the meantime, release that stuff, get it out of the house. You do not want to be living with stuff that makes you feel bad. I still have that in my head. I helped a woman once go through a huge amount of file cabinets full of paper that came with her after she got divorced.
Hmm.
And we were finally going through it because she was selling the house that she was in. And there was so much paperwork there that was related to her researching what her husband had been doing and,
Hmm.
that he was cheating. And here's the evidence of the cheating. And she did all this collecting of stuff that I think was her version of poking at the wounds. And also, there's some level of backing her up in the divorce proceedings. But it had been, 15 years since they'd been divorced. And it really wasn't serving any purpose. But she held on to it with, desperate clutching. But that's the evidence. I'm like, yeah, and he's gone and you're done and it's not happening again. And what is the point? And it took me a long time, like not that day for sure. We had to talk about it for a couple of years before she was like, okay, maybe I can be over that now.
Well,
It was really hard. Man, and every time she looked at it, it made her angry. It made her upset. It was like digging in her wound of the loss of the husband and the family. And she just, she could not stop poking herself painfully around it. And I'm saying, you don't have to live that way. You can stop poking yourself and let that stuff go and not be triggered by it every day.
and that anecdote is a nice transition to the next topic, which is identity clutter.
Ah, which is,
We're at like
oh, yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. You want to make sure that your space isn't stuffed with museum pieces from previous areas of your life or previous versions of yourself. And that's the identity clutter he's talking about. I know you're surrounded by things that have been in your life forever, but you don't have to keep those things forever just because you've owned it for so far. This is the idea that you got these pieces of furniture when you got out of college and you're still carrying them around with you because you own them, not because it makes sense to keep them still. And so evaluating all the time, just because I have this thing doesn't mean I need to keep this thing. If it doesn't work in my space, if it's not supporting my lifestyle now, I don't need to keep it just because it's always been there. Or this is what I used when I was in college, or this is what we had in our first apartment, or this is what came from my grandparents, right?
Well,
Make sure that, go
this
ahead.
this is from the sport I no longer have the flexibility to do. Or in
Right?
the
Like the
case,
camping gear that we talked about that, you don't, if you're not camping anymore, you don't need to keep all the camping gear.
well, in reference to the client you were just talking about, I think of that stuff as identity clutter because she was keeping it because it was important to her identity as the aggrieved ex-wife,
Yes, 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 yes.
you know, as
Yes.
opposed to who she is now or who she might like to be after she's finished
Mm-hmm.
being aggrieved ex-wife.
Right? And so the follow up for the story is that the ex-husband has just recently passed away. So whatever aggrievement is left is now gone.
She
It
might be
now
able to
needs
let
to be
go of.
done because he
Hmm.
has left the planet. He was ill and poor thing, and
Oh,
off he went. But like I said, now it's probably been 25 years since they were married last, and so it's not a fresh wound anymore. Okay, make sure that other people's stuff isn't crowding you out of living your life in your space. And this includes inherited clutter, plus any unreasonable amounts of clutter that belong to other members of your household or even family members who live elsewhere. I know this happens around kids a lot where they leave behind a bunch of stuff because that's, their bedroom or your my parents' house is my storage unit kind of thing. So that may be true. It may be that when your parents downsized, there were things that they wanted to keep, and they asked you to keep it for them in your space instead of in a storage unit. So maybe you have things from living people that are in the house. Maybe you have things in the house that were inherited from people that have passed already. And so you do not want to be crowded out of your space being the storage unit for other people's stuff. It needs to either be integrated into your household as now your stuff and not their stuff, or it needs to be released. So if you love it, great. And if you don't love it, just because your grandmother owned it doesn't mean you still have to keep it. You can let it go, or you can offer it to another family member, or whatever you need to do, but it doesn't have to stay in your house. And so make sure that extra stuff that's there that isn't you, didn't originate from you, that you didn't buy, make sure that stuff makes sense for supporting your life in your space. And if it doesn't, make arrangements for it to exit stage left and go somewhere else. And then lastly, I would designate a space in your home, however small, that's reserved entirely for your own use, and it's off limits to everyone else's use and clutter. So whatever corner is, however many people you live with, everybody needs one corner that they control that no one else is allowed to use, so that you have one little space that is, here is my, recuperation space. And claim it and police it so that nobody else is putting their stuff in your space. And I think that's super important.
And that may take some negotiation. You may
It
have
may take
to
some negotiation.
lay down the law or at least suggest some guidelines.
And with kids, they always take over everything, but they also, like, if your kids are video game people and they're sitting in front of the TV playing video games, then okay, that's your space that I don't mess with. And this is my space that you don't mess with over here. Like, it's very obvious. I'm sure places in your house where the children claim and use that space exclusively. And you can say, that's your space. This is my space. Right. And have that be, if that's the only space that you can protect in the house because there's, however many people living in there, you are still entitled to a little small space that you can control, decorate, clean out, make available. And we can't all be, living alone in our own houses. So, if you have a large family, if you have parents living with you, if you're part of the sandwich generation, you have kids and adults, parents, grandparents living with you that you're responsible for, then you might be living in a crowded situation. But everybody can still claim a personal space of some square footage in the house that is just for you, and that everybody gets to make their own choices about. And if you want them to honor your space, then you have to allow their space to be how they want it up to a point. Like yes, you can ask for it to be kept clean, and there's not
Free of
food and
trash.
trash in there. Yeah, like there's a certain amount of upkeep that they have to do to their space, but they can decorate it, live with it, deal with it how they want. And so, it, if you want to be respected for your carved out spot, then their carved out spot needs respect as well. But I think that that's how everybody gets to have one part of the house that is recuperative to them, because we're all different, right? We all want different things, and we all feel comfortable in different ways. And so got to make that work for you.
I thought about suggesting that as our weekly tittle, that we challenge our audience to assign yourself a me space if you don't already have one.
Mm,
Claim a space as your own, and think about what you're going to do there.
okay. Did you
And
do
if
that?
No, that's not the tittle that's not the tittle we're gonna
Oh,
do.
okay.
But
So we're gonna set an
that's
extra one.
that's alternate tittle if you don't like the one we do give you.
Okay.
Yeah. Let
Right.
me share a few comments.
Okay.
Pat from Michigan says, I inherited by choice several creative projects that my mother loved doing. I've discarded some, but will be moving in about a year, so I'm now going through stuff to downsize. A challenging process, but will be well worth it.
Well, and I'm glad that you recognize that you need to start early because it is going to take you a while to get all the way around the house in amongst all the other things you have to do to live and survive and go to work and whatever you're doing. And so, the way for you to not end up with a cracked vertebra at the end is for you to slowly look at these spaces over the course of the year and make sure that you're getting rid of anything that you don't want to move with you so that when you get down to it, you've already made all the thoughtful choices and you've reduced how much you have to pack or how much the movers have to pack, and there's less to transport on the move. And that is directly in service of future you when the move actually comes to pass.
Um, Marcia from Indiana says, bullseye 100%. Items from deceased mother, brother, grandparents, mother-in-law, and three living moved out adult children are taking up space in my home.
Oh no. That list is way too long. And I will tell you that I have been in the space where the person was the last one standing, like the last living relative of all the generations before, and it all has just funneled down to the final house. And no one, they just kept scooping up and transporting to the next home, next home, next home. And then finally, all of them landed on this one person.
And it looks like the warehouse at the end of Raiders of the Lost Ark, where it's
Yes,
just
yes.
crates stacked
Total chaos.
as far as the eye can see in all
Absolutely.
directions.
And it was a 4 bedroom, 2 story house. So she had room to absorb it, but it was really packed. It was super, super packed tight. And by that point, you're likely running out of physical steam yourself and not having a whole lot of long term stamina to work on stuff. And so the pile got bigger and bigger, and she got less and less able to deal with it. And by the time she passed away, and my client was the daughter who had to come and empty the house, and we spent hours and hours, like we spent half a year going through that house trying to dig it all out and find all the things that needed to go to people and what kind of stuff needed to be part of an estate sale. And it was a huge project. And you need to start digging out right now and releasing that stuff because if it's all sitting at your house, the adult children, there's some grown-up people, man. They need to make some decisions. It's time to come home. They've been deferring decisions as they've been kids and now they're grown-ups and they don't live in the house no more and they pay their own bills, so they need to come deal with their stuff. That's what I'm saying. Start with them, and then you start making those inherited. You're the last man standing. That means that full authority rests with you to make decisions now. So I say, make them release. Get that stuff out of there. Let people come and take it away. Sell it, whatever you need to do. But I think this is something that, if you're the last one standing and you've inherited all the relative stuff, then either you have living relatives who don't want to deal with it, which is why they let you have it all because you were reluctant to let it go in the moment and they were perfectly happy for your house to be destroyed and not theirs. Then I think that you have to acknowledge that they have given up their decision making privileges
Right.
by letting you be the
They have
storage unit.
waived their claims.
Yes. And so that the full authority rests with you. You are, you know, 9/10 possession is 9/10 of the law. You are the owner of the stuff because they could not be bothered. And so you can be bothered and you can decide, I'm done and I've made a decision about it. And I dare them to raise an objection. And you don't have to announce it to them. You can just quietly make the stuff disappear. And if they want to object later, they could say, then perhaps you should have taken it to your house when it was available.
CEE says, we have our own areas. Anything getting into common areas is fair game to getting cleared up after a certain time.
There you go. So you do some nightly resets after a certain time, and keep the common areas manageable. That's good. That's a good habit to have.
Uh, Diane says, I have a space on the love seat. When I get up, my dog moves into it.
My cat does exactly the same thing. They're like, "Oh, you pre-warmed the seat for me. Thank you." And I get up and walk into the kitchen. I come back and he's like, "Uh-huh. You dared to move. Now it is my space."
Our dog is a complete beta. And so if you get up from the bed, he will go and take your space. But as soon as you come back, he gets out of it and goes back to his spot.
Oh
So yeah,
man.
he's just like a little, portable bed warmer. He's
He's well
very,
trained.
very helpful in the cold months. Ginger says I
Frankie
have
is
that.
not helpful.
Ginger says I have that warehouse of the Raiders of the Lost Ark down in my garage.
Oh, there you go. Okay. Time to start unbuilding. If you think of it as if you are any kind of a Harry Potter enthusiast, you know that there is a room of requirement in the story that is like this endless expandable room that's full of all kinds of things that you can only access when there's great necessity to be in there. But it's this endless room, of course, in a Magic Kingdom. It is holds all the things. And so you do not have a room of requirement. Your room does not expand to fill all the things you're trying to shove in it. And so I think the idea of keeping that kind of a storage room, you can't find anything in there. The reason that the room of requirement works is because their magic lets them access the things wherever it is in the room when they need it, and that's part of the drill. You have no such magic accessibility in your room,
Right,
and so you just have to go in there and start digging, looking for stuff. And if it's too overwhelming, then you won't dig. So once the space has become an overfilled room of requirement that you can't find anything in, have no idea what's in there, then it really has become useless. And the fact that you have it doesn't make any difference because you can't find it. And
right.
so this is a room that you definitely need to unpack and, release, release, release.
Marcia says I will be rewatching this video for continued instructions and encouragement until this space is mine. Strong truths.
Go teams, go.
Yay.
That's exactly right. I think it is an extra level of not just being practical and action oriented about organizing your space, but trying to think about how you feel in it and how it is affecting your emotional state and your ability to relax and recuperate at the end of the day. And that requires some thought about one thing that I thought about when I still had a roommate, when Penny was still my roommate. Her bedroom had a wall that had all this decoration on it. Some of it was kind of 3D. There was pictures, there was paintings, there was, tchotchkes, there was a shelf with little things sitting on it. And it was all very artfully done, but it was a completely full wall of all of this stuff that looked beautiful, but to me looked super, super busy. For her, it was very interesting and she enjoyed the aesthetics of that very full, very active wall. And for me, it was like there is way too much going on in here to be in a bedroom. And so we had completely different points of view about how things should be decorated. And, she did her room and I did my room and we shared common spaces and we made some choices in common spaces. And there were some things that, like, there was too much hanging in the kitchen that I wouldn't have normally put up. But we split the difference between us. But it was just a reflection of we all have looks that feel relaxing to us or don't. And you need to think about that and consider that when you are resetting up the space, right? So that you get what works for you, regardless of what that is. Some people are super enthusiastic about, there's my whole collection of Harry Potter and paraphernalia, and it's all arranged on the shelf, and I can look at it, and I love looking at it, and it makes me so happy every time I see it. Well, then that's probably a good collection for you to have out. But if seeing a collection like that, if you like having the collection, but you don't like seeing all the pieces, that's too overwhelming, then you need to reset it so that it isn't overwhelming and it makes you feel good instead of, wiped out.
Okay. This is where I should probably confess that I am not a big Harry Potter fan. I fell
Oh,
asleep during the first movie,
oh,
and I don't think I bothered with anything after the first book.
oh my goodness.
Yeah,
Yeah, I read them all.
just
I watched them
never
all.
reached me.
And you know what? Karen Baker, it's her favorite thing. She loves Harry Potter, and she will, anytime the movies are on, she'll watch them. She can recite dialogue from memory out of all seven of the movies.
Oh my goodness.
She has watched them so many times that she can totally, like, she is an aficionado. For her, that's great background white noise because she always knows what's going on no matter what. And, I'm not that familiar,
I'm
but
going to
that's
give
her thing.
I'm going to give the last comment to Donna, who says, I am the last one standing and I have a house full of other people's things. This is too on point for me. Also, I have versions of my past lives.
Mm.
So I hope we brought some things to light for Donna and others today.
And I think what she's describing is like if you think about she has her stuff, she has inherited stuff, and she has past life stuff. So that says to me her house is really dense. And it must be difficult to clean, to manage, to you know, keep clear, to move around. And that I don't want that for you. I want your house to be a place that is struggleless. It's easier to move around and you feel relaxed there. And I'm guessing that it doesn't make you feel that way right now. And so time to step up. It's time to start working on that project. And we're here for you. So keep coming back and we will help you move along.
Reclaim that space to serve your life.
Exactly. 100%.
All right, we're going to be back next week at the usual time, Tuesday, June 16th. We had not quite nailed down our topic when it was time to start the meeting. So watch your email for an announcement, but we'll see you next week. Gayle, why don't you give us the tittle?
This week's weekly tittle, a fresh look. This week's assignment is to take a fresh look at the space in your home through the lens of your own emotional needs. Think about a room or an area of your home that's not supporting you in the way you'd like for it to, as a place of peace, relaxation, purpose, etc. Set an intention or two about your use of this space. Write down a few notes about what you do here or how you'd like to feel. Would you like for this space to help you relax, recuperate, recharge, or something else? Remove an item from this space that isn't aligned with that intention that you set. Here are a few ideas to get you started. An item of aspirational clutter, something that you bought for a hypothetical version of yourself that hasn't come about. An item of identity clutter, something you kept as a memento or a museum piece from a previous version of yourself. An item of someone else's stuff, or anything else that doesn't serve the life you want to be living now. Give yourself that mental exercise. See if you can get something out of the space that doesn't align with the intentions for the space you're trying to reclaim. And then come back and tell us about it next week because we'd love to hear from you about it.
If you're watching this on YouTube, we'd love for you to join us live. To get notifications about upcoming events, we invite you to join the meetup group by visiting cfhou.com/meetup. You can also follow us on Facebook by visiting cfhou.com/Facebook or join our mailing list by visiting cfhou.com/subscribe. We love to hear from our audience, so please keep your comments, questions, and topic suggestions coming on YouTube, Facebook, or anywhere that you find us. You can always reach us through the website at clutterfairyhouston.com.
And don't forget about us on YouTube, cfhou.com/YouTube. Like and subscribe so you can get notifications when we actually get the videos up for you to watch again after the fact. Thanks everybody for coming. We appreciate you so much. We love being here and we love talking to you about this stuff. So today was a emotional exploring topic. I know that that's a little bit less practical and more contemplative, but I always like those kind of topics in relationship to clutter, and I appreciate you going along on the journey with me on that. Thank you, and we will see you guys next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.